All right. Hi, my name is Nellie, and your name?
Wendy.
Wendy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what brings you in today.
So I've been feeling a lot of different emotions lately, kind of just overwhelmed, pretty anxious, and mostly because my husband passed away about a year ago, and it was right on our 25th anniversary. It was really rough, and I had been his primary caregiver for about 24 years after he got out of the military, when he had some PTSD, TBI, so I don't know, I've just been feeling a lot lately.
So what I'm hearing is that since your husband passed away just a year ago, after 24 years of marriage and 24 years, well, half of that at least being his caregiver, you're experiencing just road transitions as far as now being single, being a widow, and also just not being a caregiver anymore. And it's also been putting a little anxiety, and you've been having a lot of anxiety because of this.
Definitely. This is going to sound terrible, but I've weirdly felt relieved lately that, even though I loved my husband, and, I kind of felt relieved because while I was his caregiver, he was kind of unpredictable and irritable, and I never really knew what mood he was going to be in, and there was so much pressure on me to do everything right.
And Wendy, and like you said, it sounds terrible, but that feeling of that relief is not something that's ordinary. It's something that's going to happen. You've had this great responsibility, and now it's not there anymore. So it is kind of a relief, and also just, like I said, a transition. And let me just go back and talk a little bit more about when I said road transitions. That's the transition of having one responsibility and like learning a new one. Like going from, like you said, being a caregiver, and now you're not a caregiver. So what are you? And have you found, or have you been able to find different things to do since losing your husband?
I've definitely felt kind of lost as to who I am. I don't really know where to go from here. I don't really want to bother anybody else with how I'm feeling, because it's my problem, and I've hid for so many years about his issues, and my friends don't even really reach out to me anymore. So I just feel kind of isolated, and like there's no way to find out where to go from here.
Is there do you have any friends that you have reached out to, or have you feel comfortable talking with about this issue?
I do have one friend that I felt close to in the past. She can kind of relate to what's going on, but she also has a family and younger children that she's focusing on, and I don't really want to burden her with what I have to say. I mean, she's my good friend, but I don't want to push it,
So I'm hearing that since your husband has passed away, you really haven't interacted socially with anyone since, and even when you were a caregiver, you weren't interacting socially. So that hasn't changed since.
No, it hasn't. I've tried a few times, but I just, like I said, I feel guilty about so many things, and that's one of them is, I don't want people to pity me. I'm not going to tell people things so that they'll feel bad for me. I just don't want people to think I'm asking too much.
And do you think your friend, and have you talked about stuff in the past with her?
Yeah, I've never really opened up to her too much, but we're friends and we're there for each other, and there have been other issues in my life that I've talked to her about, not this specific one, but she's been there for me before.
And in those times that she has been there for you, how has she helped the situation or proved beneficial for telling her about the situation?
Yeah, she's pretty there for me. She can put herself in my shoes, and she's willing to be there for me no matter what.
So what makes this time different from all the other times that you've shared with her?
I think this is the biggest thing that I would ever told her. So, and I feel like I almost, even though he's passed away, I would feel sort of like I'm betraying my husband, telling her these secrets that,
Betraying his trust
yeah,
as his wife.
exactly. Switch. Okay. Okay. So you feel like by telling your friend, you would be betraying what your husband might have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, he died like when it was our anniversary. Just that just feels just so. I just I feel like I'm still married. I am still married. That is my husband, and I'm just not. I don't feel okay with just telling her what was happening because I felt like that was something that it was between me and him.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's understandable. You want to keep some things private.
Exactly.
I can definitely understand that. I do want to ask, is it more important to you to have some sort of outlet moving forward, or to respect your husband's wishes, kind of keeping everything bottled up, regardless of the anxiety and guilt that you might feel?
I definitely don't want to feel like this, and I don't know. I don't know if maybe like I said, in past situations, Cindy has helped me. She's definitely been like my rock through different situations. I'm just having a hard time just sharing this with her, and I feel like I almost know that it would be easier, but it's just like I'm like dealing with that. I don't know. Like I still want to honor him, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's a conflict for you, and a reasonable one.
I feel like I don't know. Like I'm weighing the options. I don't know. Like pros and cons. Like I really do feel like maybe I need to start doing like reaching out to people because I do feel super lonely and just in the house generally. That's all I do. I'm in the house.
Hmm. So, if you're not ready to talk about how you're feeling regarding the situation that occurred with your husband and his passing, what are some things you are comfortable talking with her about?
Like I think I would even just telling her how I feel. Like since the funeral, I really haven't much talked about like how I felt since the funeral. I don't think she knows just how like I was so involved. I mean, obviously I don't have to tell him what was happening, but like I was so involved that like I had a job once, like I don't school. I've never even done that, so it's just like just telling her like just I'm lost.
Mm-hmm. So opening up to her, maybe not exactly about your husband, but opening up about how you're feeling moving forward would be helpful for you.
Yeah, I think that would be great if I could do that.
Mm-hmm. And so in the past, you said she's been accepting of listening to some of your issues.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, and you feel like you could, when do you feel like it would be a reasonable goal to maybe just think about one thing you want to say to her before next week? You don't have to say it, but coming up with one thing you'd like to talk about.
I think I can do that just to talk with her. If she could like come over, maybe not nothing too big, or just me and her, but just have a conversation with just her. Yeah.
Okay. So before we wrap up today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've talked about today, kind of wrap it up in a neat little package, and solidify something that you could work on. Just one small thing, like we talked about. How would that sound to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay. So what you've told me is that you've gone through a lot over the past year, and really over the past 25 years, being your husband's caregiver. And you've endured a lot of stress, and now that he's gone, you're having a lot of changes in your life, going from being single, or from being married to being single, and now no longer having to care for him and really having time to focus on yourself and not really quite knowing how to proceed with that time. So that's something that anybody would struggle with. Big, stressful life events are really a cause for anxiety and depression. And so those are some things I think we could work on together should you wish to continue. And if you would like to continue with meeting with me, I would like to give you one little thing to think about before we go on to next week. So how would you feel about meeting again?
I think this is something I could do, this session. I like it. I think I could do it, yeah. I'd like to meet with you again, definitely.
Okay, great. So knowing that we're going to meet again next week, do you mind if I give you one thing to think about?
Okay.
Okay, and I know I already said it, but I just wanted to kind of remind you a little bit of an extra little push. Just think about one thing that you could say to Cynthia, right? Your friend?
Yes.
So think about one thing that you would like to talk with Cynthia about. You don't have to actually call her. You don't have to make that first step to actually do it. Just think about it. And if it would feel helpful, write it down. But just you don't have to. Just come back in and we'll talk more about that next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So it was so nice to meet you, Wendy, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay.